Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm excited to have Naturopath Bridget Greenall back with us. This episode is all about SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and what to do if you suspect you have it but aren't able to test. We also discuss how the inflammation caused by SIBO and blood sugar dysregulation can cause havoc with your hormones, leading to PMS and hot flushes. This conversation will be especially valuable for practitioners looking to deepen their understanding of SIBO and learn practical approaches for supporting clients when testing isn't an option. Students, this is a fantastic opportunity to expand your knowledge of functional gut health and gain insights into addressing SIBO from a clinical perspective. And for our listeners dealing with SIBO and fluctuating hormones, this episode will provide actionable insights and help you better understand your next steps. Welcome to the Histamine Well Podcast, designed for practitioners and patients alike. This is your trusted source for insights on histamine intolerance, methylation, gut health, women's hormones, and much more. I'm Joanne Kennedy, your host, naturopath, author, and educator, passionate about breaking down complex science into clear, accessible knowledge. Whether you're a health professional or navigating your personal wellness journey, the Histamine Well podcast bridges the gap between cutting-edge research and practical understanding to empower you with the tools to thrive. Hi, it's Joanne. Before I start this show, I want to talk to you about the at-home saliva methylation test that I mentioned in this episode, as I've mentioned it in so many upcoming episodes. I'm talking about it on guest podcasts that I'm on. I'm getting a lot of my patients to do this test. So essentially, it's like a COVID test. It's a at-home saliva swab test. So you can do it from home. You do the test and it shows you where your methylation status is in real time. Because the thing with methylation, it changes. It changes with your diet, sleep, exercise. It changes throughout the menstrual cycle in women, amongst other things. So we need to be looking at it at a day-to-day basis to understand how it's changing. And it's very fascinating as I'm seeing a lot of my women with PMDD actually are severely over-methylating, not under, which has been a real eye-opener for me. So I've been using this test now for several months. I'm really happy with the results. The company, they recommend supplements to reduce methyls or increase methyls, which I agree with what they say. I agree with the products that they're prescribing. It's sort of telling you, this is what they think you should take. They link through to the actual supplement so you can purchase it from iHerb, I think. So game changing. I absolutely love this test. So I reached out to them and said, hey guys, can I secure a discount for my listeners? And they said, absolutely. So I've secured a 10% discount for the methylation test. So you can find it on my website under methylation test, and you can use discount code Histamine Well 10 to enjoy 10% off your first order and each subsequent order. Hi, Bridget. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, so Bridget and I were just having a chat before we jumped on, and she's had a patient recently who's just unable to test for SIBO. And we always have to remember this in clinical practice, that some of our patients who just don't have the funding available to do SIBO testing, they need to see us, they need to test, they need to get the medications. And some people are living in countries where the testing is just not actually available.
Yep.
And we're going to chat today about how we can work with that, because the thing about SIBO, it is so obvious when someone has SIBO due to signs and symptoms.
Yep.
And once we get the right treatment protocol in place for them, within a couple of weeks, their symptoms will significantly improve, which is why we don't have to test if there are hindrances. I love to test. It's great to be able to see the test results and to retest to make sure it's gone. So this is one of the conditions that I think we can rely on signs and symptoms and how our treatment is working to ascertain whether this is what is going on with our patients. So Bridget, so do you want to give me a rundown on this patient who you highly suspect has SIBO? What are their symptoms?
I had a female present to the clinic, 48 years old, and her presenting complaint was bloating and gas daily. But it was really significant, that distension, certainly towards after lunch through the afternoon and evening, and it was really quite painful. So to me, that's a big red flag. She does have regular bowel motions, but a lot of diarrhea. Certain foods will trigger diarrhea.
Do you remember what foods they are?
Well, fruit gives her diarrhea, so she has stopped eating that. And anything fatty. So if she has any takeaway, which she's learnt to avoid, but if she was to go out and have a hamburger and chips, it would not end well for her. Another thing that was relevant, she started having hot flashes as well. That's just started as well.
Okay.
So
how old is she?
48.
Okay. Does she have a regular menstrual cycle?
That started to be inconsistent sort of in the last 6 months, she's noticed. So up until this point, yes, and now she's started, it's kind of coming every 6 weeks, or it comes on time, and then it might be 8 weeks, and then it comes on time. So now we're getting that inconsistency.
Okay.
So definitely you look at that intestinal permeability is not great, and then the knock-on effect that's going to have to everything else, to hormones, immune function, hormone function, everything.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Now we did speak about SIBO, and we talked about what it was and how it could possibly be affecting her. And as you had mentioned at the beginning, I think it's more of a time thing for her, like that we look at that process and she's like, I don't have time for that. She works shift work and
okay. This is an interesting one.
yeah.
This is a good case, guys. So shift workers, nurses,
Yeah.
and flight attendants.
Yeah.
It's difficult. You know, guys, I want to first just go back to just why this is so obviously SIBO. Having disrupted circadian rhythm is a major cause of SIBO.
Yeah.
Okay, simple. Bloating and distension, it's just absolute classic.
Yeah.
You know, the bloat, I mean, it is the gases that are causing so much of the bloating. And the loose stools, depending on what foods, it can point to hydrogen SIBO. But if she was getting diarrhea from fruit, she could also have fructose malabsorption, which is common with SIBO. And, you know, eating fatty foods can do that to anybody, right?
Yeah.
But what we also need to understand about SIBO is that it deconjugates your bile acids, doesn't it? So sometimes people are not being able to digest fats, not necessarily because they've got gallbladder issues, but because the SIBO bacteria break the bile acids, rendering them unavailable. I'd be really happy with a case like this to talk to them about, hey, we can do a SIBO diet. It is restrictive.
Yeah.
But if you did a SIBO diet for a couple of weeks with some digestive enzymes and herbs for SIBO,
Yeah.
and if that improves your symptoms out of sight within 2 weeks, then it's like, hey, I reckon you got SIBO. Like it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
So we looked at some digestive enzymes. I looked at some philodendron, fort, and the Alimax.
Yeah,
SIBO
that's
diet.
exactly what I would have done, Bridget. So listeners, the thing with SIBO, the easy thing is that you can have hydrogen SIBO, and what is really good for reducing the bacteria that create hydrogen is berberine. And as Bridget said, philodendron is actually a plant that's it's the plant that has the highest concentration of berberine, so it's the strongest. Philodendron. And allicin, Alimax, is allicin, which is an active constituent of garlic, which is specific for methane.
Yeah.
So if you don't know if she's got hydrogen or methane, you give both. And then you get the digestive enzymes in and make sure her bowels are moving well, and she should definitely see improvements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did. We saw huge improvement. Huge.
Yeah. Now, the thing with this is that if she didn't want to continue doing that and she wanted to go down the allopathic route, that's going to be very costly. Most GPs don't know about it. they won't prescribe you the rifaximin, and then you'll have to go to an integrative doctor and pay for that, and then you'll have to pay for rifaximin, which is, it's not covered by the government. It's something like $400 a pop.
Yeah.
That's the thing with SIBO, is that the allopathic treatment is actually really expensive. I'm not saying that it's not warranted in some instances, but it is costly. So, Bridget, if she came back and she wasn't doing well at all, right, what I wouldn't presume straight away that she didn't have SIBO. What I'd be thinking about is issues with migrating motor complex.
Yeah.
I had a lovely English girl here. She's moved out here from the UK, living here. Her distension is beyond uncomfortable. We tested SIBO, it's absolutely through the roof. And before I saw her for a follow-up, I got her to do the diet, and she did it, and she did it religiously, and she came back with no improvement. But her SIBO is really high. She's got massive issues with the migrating motor complex.
And then what can trigger that?
It's usually caused from food poisoning. There's other causes, but it's majorly caused from food poisoning. And the thing with the migrating motor complex, it kicks in 90 minutes after you eat, and it sweeps out undigested food and bad bacteria. So when the bloating's still there on that bland diet with no fun, and it's positive for SIBO, it's just not moving.
Yeah.
Now, it was so severe with her, I sent her off to the integrative doctor to get low-dose naltrexone, which is a prokinetic medication that is going to help with getting that migrating motor complex reset. She will also do the antibiotics because she's gone into allopathy, but that's fine, because if you do the antibiotics for SIBO and if you make sure your bowels are moving and you've got the low-dose naltrexone, the prokinetic medication in place, so everything's going to move, if you hit it for 2 weeks with antibiotics, it can really clear it out.
Yeah.
But if you do antibiotics without knowing you've got a migrating motor complex issue, it's a complete waste of time and money, and you're killing your good bacteria at the same time. So I've seen that a lot with patients. They take rifaximin and neomycin, or the other antibiotic for it, a couple of weeks, and they feel amazing. And then they stop, and within a day, Bridget, it just comes back. So that's a classic sign of there's massive issues with migrating motor complex. There are natural prokinetics like iberogast and ginger. I just don't see them being strong enough in most instances.
No, I
You don't
agree.
find them strong enough either?
No, I don't. Definitely not.
I think people will benefit from them because they're like they're lovely liver herbs. Like they support liver and bile flow, but they're not strong prokinetics.
No. I mean, it's a drop dose as well, so I wouldn't see it. I don't generally see it would be efficacious in that way for that function.
Yeah, interesting. No, perfect. Like that's exactly what I'd do. And so she's come back and no bloating.
There is still some bloating. However, it's a huge reduction. So she notices, we did the 2-week SIBO diet, and then she noticed almost instant relief with that. And then when we kind of got off that and we looked at moving into a more regular diet that we can sustain, I maintained no gluten at this point still. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but also I think it's important to mention that she does have type 2 diabetes. So another concern, I guess, was more from that metabolic endotoxemia, which can affect insulin. If we've already got type 2 diabetes, that then can create more issues for this patient as well. But yes, a huge reduction in gas and bloating. So that was fantastic. She noticed when she slipped up and didn't eat foods that she knew she shouldn't eat, she experienced pain and discomfort again, but not to the extent that she had in the beginning. So yes, overall, there was huge improvement.
Yeah, fantastic.
You look at someone, she's 48 and this happens very slowly over a long period of time. Yes, there's an improvement in, I think it was, I didn't get to see her after 2 weeks, but I saw her after about 3 weeks just to initially see, hey, what's happening, check in, what do we need to fix here? It's going to take, a period of time to really manage that for the long term.
Yeah, I see SIBO taking at least 3 or 4 months.
Yeah,
definitely. It's not easy. It's not easy. And I take my hat off to my patients that have done it. because it's a hard slog. But I tell you what, it's so well worth it, because if you treat it naturally, you understand the root cause.
Yeah.
And you are dealing with the root cause at the same time. And usually it doesn't come back. I've had many patients start, stop, go away, do antibiotics, come, and then 2 years later they're like, Jo, I'm back. I'm ready to do it properly now.
It's all about expectation management, isn't it? And that's, I feel, a really big part of our job. Is it's really easy for me to sit here and educate someone or explain a concept to somebody, which a lot of the time I think people don't even want to hear. They're just like, give me a solution, right? Yeah. But it's, how do I motivate this person to be able to change their behavior or their attitudes to be able to follow this for quite a long period of time? And that's where it's quite challenging.
Yeah. So this is where we should start talking about the major causes of SIBO.
Yeah.
And we have everything in the medical literature, like surgery and food poisoning, celiac disease, endometriosis, antibiotic use, excessive antibiotic use, proton pump inhibitors. But what I see that's just not in the literature is stress, major.
Yeah.
Eating at your computer, your brain's just not kicking in to get your digestive enzymes going.
Yeah.
And people that graze. I had a patient once, she would eat rice crackers with tuna and cottage cheese over like 4 hours. She just constantly grazed.
Oh.
And we test, and I know, and it's just like, it's just SIBO through the roof, because you're just not allowing that migrating motor complex to kick in. So it's just what I've found clinically with patients that are just really unresponsive. And it's like, oh my God, like they'd said, oh, I'd just snack, because they wouldn't do it in their form, Bridget. They'd tell me breakfast, lunch and dinner. They didn't tell me about the actual grazing of it all day.
Yeah.
And then they're migrating. I think it's somehow slowed down the migrating motor complex, where it just was lazy or something. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. But it's just the grazers, and stress will absolutely do it.
And then also, I think certainly what I see a lot of, because I really see, as I mentioned before, women kind of in their 40s and early 50s, is that shift in hormones and that fluctuation, the reduction in progesterone and that fluctuation of estrogen is also going to impact your gut microbiome. It can certainly influence intestinal permeability, and then it can start there. So a lot of these patients are saying to me, I've never had gut issues ever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I hit 40 and I don't know what's happened.
Yeah. That metabolic syndrome causes massive issues with inflammation, disruption to the microbiome. So interesting when you talk about this lady in the hot flushes, because it's like, I'm 49 now and I'm taking estrogen. I got my hormones tested on day 2 and my estrogen wasn't low. And I'm not having hot flushes, but I start spotting on day like 8, 9, 10, and because I'm a naturopath, I know what's going on. My estrogen's not high. So I got estrogen gel and I lather it on myself and I love it. It just gives me, it's just like a shot of coffee. It gives me so much energy. So it's like, does she need estrogen? But do you know what? With her case picture, insulin, so SIBO is highly inflammatory and insulin is highly inflammatory. And she could just have inflammation pulsing up and down her hormones.
Yes.
The estrogen, she's potentially, histamine gets involved as well. It's like the estrogen's pulsing and causing hot flushes. Like that would be my instinct on that.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah. She might not need estrogen yet. Like it's interesting, estrogen, because I'm so pro taking it, but sometimes it's literally the systemic, as you were saying, leaky gut and all that systemic inflammation. Histamine for sure can cause hot flushes.
Oh, very much so. I wonder though, certainly this is why I wanted to go and get her insulin monitored, because if we can support that intestinal permeability, because there's definitely something there. We've had a great response with the SIBO diet and some of the supplementation to support that. Would that then, as you said, have an ongoing effect downstream and reduce hot flushes in that regard, because we're reducing the inflammation?
I would be surprised if it didn't. Yeah, absolutely so surprised if it didn't. Yeah. Before we go any further, I want to speak directly to the practitioners and students listening. If you're intrigued by histamine intolerance and eager to expand your knowledge, particularly around methylation and how to apply this understanding in clinical practice, we offer the Histamine and Methylation online group coaching course, the only program of its kind. It covers everything you need to know about histamine and methylation, providing both the theory and guidance you need to treat these issues effectively in clinical practice. To learn more and apply, visit joannekennedynaturopathy.com.
And then also another point that I definitely have thought about with this case is then how is this then influencing the metabolism of her estrogen? And then how do we support that?
Yeah, so interesting. So the only way you can really look at estrogen metabolites is with the Dutch hormone test.
Yeah.
It's always interesting. And then we've also got the methylation test, the somaticode mood sense methylation test, that with the home test. We can also do that.
One now. I'm definitely going to try that.
So again, guys, listeners, practitioners, students, you can now do methylation testing as a saliva swab test from home. So you can actually test it every day for like a month and see what your methylation status is. And you'll be surprised because I've been doing this in my patients and many of them are severely over-methylated, not under. So be careful about giving out B vitamins like candy.
Yeah.
I remember at college, everyone gets B vitamins. Well, not everyone. Yeah, so Somaticode is it's a company in the US, and when I spoke to the owners of it, Amanda, she was messaging me because she's 49 and perimenopausal like me, and she has hot flushes. She does the methylation test and it tells her what to take. She's an undermethylator. Yeah, she takes some trimethylglycine and it stops the hot flushes.
Wow.
Because it's well, for her, it's just balancing out her estrogen. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating stuff. So look, methylation is so complex because it's dealing with it's dealing with many enzymes, but it's definitely dealing with histamine. It's definitely dealing with your estrogen.
Yeah.
And it's complex, but you can test now and understand what you need to do to tweak your methylation, which can really impact your hormones.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Bridget, you could do a Dutch hormones test, and then you can also look at a methylation test. The girls that I'm doing this test on are like perfect diets. They've been with me for a couple of years.
Yeah.
They're not overweight. They don't have insulin resistance. They've been in perfect diets. They're really good health.
Yeah.
And this is just the one thing, like the PMDD is just that mood stuff it comes and goes each cycle, but sometimes as they're getting older, it can get worse.
Yeah.
And clinically, I've found SAMe help a lot of women with PMDD, but then sometimes it doesn't. And why? Because they're severely over-methylating, what I found. This is just anecdotal from the patients that I've been seeing, is that this group of women that I could only get so far, they didn't even feel good on B vitamins. And they had such signs and symptoms. They had high homocysteine, they were high estrogen, fibroids. They seemed like such a candidate for methyls, for SAMe. They didn't do well on B, so I never gave them SAMe, and they were way better than they were when they saw me with their PMDD, but they were still struggling with mood.
Yeah.
And when I tested it and they're over-methylating, it's like, wow, like severely over-methylating. And they take niacinamide and vitamin C to reduce the methyls. Absolutely, their mood goes from terrible to really stable.
That's unbelievable.
So it is. It's great. It's really interesting to see. So, however, with your patient now, we don't want to jump the gun. Like what you're doing is what you need to do.
Yeah.
So we don't want to jump the gun and go, oh, we need to look at methylation when the gut stuff has to be worked on, and the weight and the insulin and the inflammation.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely.
Because those things disrupt methylation. They disrupt methylation significantly. So potentially if a woman like that did a test, it could be all over the methylation test. It could be under, over, it could be all over the place.
No, that's really interesting to know. I'm definitely going to start looking to that and start utilising those.
Yeah, good. So any other symptoms, any other interesting symptoms this patient had?
No, so other than she is a shift worker, as I mentioned before, which I did think was really quite significant. Um, she doesn't seem to have any issues when she sleeps, when she does get to sleep. She doesn't
Yeah,
do night shift all the time, but I think it's something like 5 or 6 days a month where she'll do night shift.
yeah, yeah,
So certainly looking at circadian rhythm and how to support that was a big part of our treatment plan. She does grind her teeth and she mouth breathes. So
yeah.
again,
Okay.
she's not sleeping properly. So then that's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
have a whole pile of effects on all the different systems in the body. And then when it
yeah.
comes to her
Absolutely.
cycle, so like I said, her cycle has started to change a little bit. Um, but there's lots of irritability leading up to her cycle, and she can be incredibly emotional leading up to her cycle. And then she's having a lot of PMS cramping as her period's starting as well.
Yeah. So this is where it's just the truth, ladies. You've got to look after yourself when you're getting older,
Mm,
because when if you have a great gut microbiome and you're eating well, you've got low insulin levels and everything's great, if that was happening with your hormones, then it's just, wow, you seem like you need, if you're low in progesterone, you're going to have unopposed estrogen.
yeah,
And so we go in with calcium deglucarate and we detoxify that. And we support with progesterone, whether it be trying to improve your ovulation and get your progesterone nutrients up. So progesterone nutrients are B6, zinc, vitamin D, iodine, and iron. We make sure we get that up.
yeah,
Or potentially some women will start needing bioidentical progesterone at that age. But when there's so much inflammation in the body, as we're saying, pulsing the estrogen up and down, she could be like high or low estrogen. It's difficult. But
yeah,
when a woman is, really looking after herself, great diet, low insulin, doing lots of weights, building muscle for insulin resistance and sensitizing insulin, the gut's good, then that classic picture of 48 years old, still menstruating, low progesterone, it's usually unopposed estrogen.
yeah.
So it's kind of highish, and we go in with calcium deglucarate.
And even going in with calcium deglucarate at that time, because obviously the estrogen, the progesterone is very low, which you're going to see that at that age. But then the estrogen is also going to be on the lower end at that point, and it's still okay to go in with the calcium deglucarate at that
Uh,
point.
Great question. Um, I I would just, for example, if a woman is having, say, a 28 days, a sort of, okay, if she's not ovulating well, she's probably having like a sort of 33, 34, 35-day cycle.
Yes.
And she's starting to get issues in the luteal phase.
Yeah.
I would just start from ovulation, to start calcium
Okay.
deglucarate from ovulation. Now, if a woman is getting symptoms at ovulation, right? So mood changes, breast tenderness, high histamine levels at ovulation.
Mm,
Remember, estrogen increases histamine. I'd go in with calcium deglucarate around day 7 to 10 to get it before ovulation. But I would not be taking it every day
okay.
because it can drop your estrogen too low.
And what about NAC? Can you use that interchangeably? Could you use NAC or calcium
Well,
deglucarate?
well, I mean, NAC is nowhere near as strong as calcium deglucarate for estrogen detoxification. What I use NAC for is to support follicle quality and
Mm,
corpus luteum quality. So follicles and the corpus luteum in particular are highly reactive to oxidative stress. Also, I find NAC is not as strong as calcium deglucarate when it comes to estrogen detoxification, but I use
yeah.
NAC to support follicle quality and corpus luteum.
Yeah.
So where I find NAC shine is in women sort of from 40, in their early 40s where they're still cycling.
Yes.
And sometimes this is when you can get lots of really hectic symptoms because your estrogen's so high and then your progesterone's dropping and you get like breast tenderness, bloating and fluid retention,
Yeah.
like bad mood, and you're like an estrogen bucket,
Yeah.
right? You're so high in estrogen because for the first time, like your progesterone's really dropping out.
Yeah.
And so that can be really helpful. And at the same time, N-acetylcysteine is going to help with follicle quality, healthier follicles, healthier ovulation, healthier corpus luteum. Listeners, the follicle, when it releases the egg, it then has another role. It forms a tissue called the corpus luteum that secretes progesterone. So we need a healthy corpus luteum for progesterone. And N-acetylcysteine or glutathione is really, really helpful for that. Yeah. This is why I see women with the really chronic things that are causing inflammation in our patients, like oxalates and mold and insulin, and really bad diet. They have terrible PMS because they're just the quality of the follicle, the quality of the corpus luteum is just not there.
No.
Yeah, it's just all that inflammation, oxidative stress. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. But the whole estrogen conversation is just an interesting one. I'm really pro taking estrogen when you need it, but like progesterone, you can't take progesterone until you need it. I've had a lot of women be put on progesterone just because they've got PMS, but they've got PMS because of inflammation and high estrogen. They take progesterone, and until it's low, when you take bioidentical progesterone, it can cause, it slows down the motility of the bowel. It causes massive issues with breasts, like really sore boobs. It can throw your menstrual cycle out. So it's not really great to use until you actually test and you're low. Yeah.
And that's a really good point to make. And also, I think there's a similar argument you can make around stress. If you're incredibly stressed and you start shoving in the progesterone, where's that progesterone going to go? Is it going to go where it needs to go, or is it going to go? Is it going to be used to help make,
cortisol?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
To create more stress.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So
that's a really good, because I just have women go, "Oh, Jo, like I'm on this Facebook group and women love progesterone, and I just feel terrible on it."
Start taking it.
Yeah. So some women just don't necessarily feel that great on it. So I just want listeners to know that your hormones are like your report card each month, giving you insight into your overall health, and it gets more strict as you get older, I think, and it just does. And we need to be doing all the diet and lifestyle stuff and the exercise to help us through that transition, because you can't just, we really, really do. I'm jealous of women. I've had some women say to me, I had this woman in the shop the other day, we were just chatting, and she was only 45. She goes, "Oh God," I don't know why. I think I must have been complaining about my hormones. I don't know. I talked to everyone about it. She goes, I started getting hot flushes and like low libido. And then I just went to the doctor and I had really low hormones, and then they put me on hormones and I'm better. She was just, in my mind, lucky. She just went into menopause really quickly.
Yeah.
And she was in menopause and her hormones were dropped, they were down, and then she got onto her HRT and she felt great. So she didn't go through that roller coaster that most of us other women have to. But as naturopaths, we're here to lessen that, to soften that ride.
And it's such an individual case by case, isn't it? And then that triggers the question, for you, as naturopaths, for us to think about, well, what else is happening here? Right? So if that's quite black and white for that individual, well, that's great. And it's generally not like that for a lot of people. So what else? And this is something that I know that you've always said, is you really need to kind of look at that root cause and figure out what that is, and then address that, because otherwise
exactly.
It's a Band-Aid.
Yeah, it is. And, as I was saying, all for estrogen and progesterone, but ladies, if it hasn't worked for you, especially when you're in menopause, you're not menstruating, usually it's just really well tolerated. But if you're still cycling and these synthetic or bioidentical hormones are causing you problems, then there's a lot we can do naturally to help, get your cycle better and get your symptoms under control until the time that you actually do need to take them. And when you do need to take them, they should be beneficial. So it's usually, if they're not benefiting you, you don't actually need to take them yet.
That's a good point to make, Jo.
Cool, Bridget. Well, interesting case. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We'll definitely have you on the show again.
Thanks, Jo.
You're welcome. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the Histamine Well podcast, leave a review, or share it with someone who could benefit. If you have any questions you'd like answered or have a topic that you'd like me to discuss on future episodes, please go to my website. It's Joanne Kennedy, naturopathy.com, where you can provide us with that information. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care and be well.